Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I want to do is I want to talk to my chosen ones about your physical environment that you have control over is a reflection of your spiritual being. You know, a lot of us get lost in the sauce because there's a lot of witchy motherfuckers out here that's running around masking and doing weird shit and throwing people energy off and doing all kind of crazy shit. But at the end of the day, this physical realm is a projection of the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm is stronger than this physical realm. So it's kind of like if somebody is playing a video game, you're stronger than the video game. You're controlling the video game. You're in charge of the video game. You know what I'm saying? So understanding that, right? If you look at people and you check people out when you meet them, or I just say new people, because old people, while we're growing and ascending, we're already basically removing them. Most of us, when we're growing and ascending, the old people in our life, we're removing. So for the new ones in your life, you usually can tell by their walk of life how they carry themselves in the inside by what's around them and what they project. Making decisions in survival mode, you can still see people live honest and genuine in survival mode. Same thing if they're not in survival mode. So you have to process when you see these beings. You have to process when you see these beings. What are they actually choosing to present to you? What are they actually choosing to present to you? You know? Like, being able to see through these masks are a lot difficult each day because you have beings like us who have these witchy motherfuckers around us, and instead of completely cutting and removing, some of us are still helping and teaching or allowing them in our space, and then they're kind of mimicking in us. You know what I'm saying? So they're kind of learning how to stay blended in, how to mesh, how to fit in with us and the rest of the population without being exposed. But it's always signs that you could see and tell when somebody is riding with this team versus somebody riding with this team. And then you can tell actually where their strength is at and how much they weigh. So like for sheep, when people are projecting, before I dive into that far, let's just go individual first. Because a lot of these subjects, like, you can go really in depth into them, but I try to keep them broken down as short and simplified as possible so that way it's easy to understand. But like I'd say, I use my daughter for example because I talked to her as well. I got numerous examples. Y'all already know I have no problem pinpointing somebody out. But like for my daughter, when I think and I look at her and I just put myself in that time where, okay, this is our week, that's our week, this our week, that's our week, and I accumulate all those together, I give a guesstimate. The way she walks, dresses, talks, the toys she chooses to play with, the games she chooses to play with on her phone, the way she chooses to spend her time outside, how she takes breaks from her technology to go outside to meditate, I can tell what kind of being my daughter is in the inside already, and she's just a small version who doesn't have any really major choice over what items is being brought into her physical field as far as like clothes and things like that. Well, food and toys she does have a choice in, you know, at least over with me she does have a choice in as far as that manner. But it's like if I want to get blankets or like all the other little tedious stuff for the house, or a rug, which I don't give a fuck about any of that shit, I'm just using it as an example. If I did, that would be something she wouldn't have control over. But the way she chooses to walk and live her life now, I could tell what kind of being she is. And that's just a child version. So when we transfer that over into adult version, right? most of the demonic team, they have to have a job. They don't even know why they need a job. They don't even know why they want a job. They just know that, hey, job equals money, equals people, equals something to do. You know? So, first, when you meet people out here in this Western world, everybody is on a plantation almost, basically. Plantation is a job, a build job. A plantation is your build job. So, when you are seeing people at these plantations, you also have to see, like, okay, how much of this job is their focus? How much of this plantation are they devoted to this plantation? And if they are extremely devoted to this plantation, how helpful is this plantation to the universe? You know what I'm saying? First I start with what I'm given. So if I'm meeting them out and it's like Boris jobs kind of thing, then I'm going to process that first. But if I'm meeting them in real lifetime, well, that's real lifetime. If I'm meeting them outside of plantation build job time and just kind of in passing, or they came into my space, or I bumped into their space through mutual associates or whatever, appearance, I don't really care for appearance too much, because the way this shit is so witchy right now, it's kind of hard to put a high percentage on appearance anymore. Everything is in a percentage scale, so there is a percentage that gets put on the percentage scale. If you're saying you're a straight masculine male and I see you with some with some spandex or some leggings and jeggings on, like, that forces a different perspective, because I'm a masculine male, so my nuts hang, yours are shriveled up, so mine's is automatically, that puts a judgy perspective. So I'm trying to get past the clothing area so you can get past to the spiritual part and see what's actually going on, because some people may be on that other side, right? But the tactics and the things that they're doing to help people is more useful and is more helpful, insightful, and lightful than a lot of motherfuckers on this side of the spectrum. Now, walks of life may not be perfect, but none of our walks is perfect. I don't even believe in perfection. You know what I'm saying? But you can always tell. Like, for me, I just always been really good at processing people. Like, it's hard to break something down all the time that comes natural. You know, like, trying to explains to someone, like, it's hard to even come up with a legitimate example that will actually make sense. And that's the thing about the English words, they don't do us a lot of justice. You have to work a lot harder with trying to communicate and express yourself out with these English words. And if you actually think about it, you actually are holding your breath a lot longer with some of these words. Your breath doesn't even naturally flow with this shit. And that kind of just fucking threw me all the way off the subject from what I was talking about, being able to tell beings from the inside outward. And that's how it just flows sometimes, because a lot of this just comes from here. It's not written out, it's not scripted, it just kind of flows, you know what I'm saying? But as far as being able to tell, like, I start off with the example with the job thing. You can tell by how people feel about their plantation, you know what I'm saying? Outside of that, you have to use the dress code, but the dress code is at a percentage scale, you know? We all understand that, really know what's going on with this spiritual world, understand that, you know, this weird thing that the other team does with, it's expressive thought, or it's creative or some shit like that, just doing the opposite of nature. That's not being creative. That's not being creative. So I take those things into perspective too when people are saying that, oh well, I dress this way because it's free thinking, it's perspective. You know, it's a different day and age we living in. You're right. It's more fucked up than it was before. If you think about it, people keep saying we're in a new day and age. We are, because we've allowed more of this demonic shit to live and process through. You think about it, even the Egyptians with they weird ass shit, trying to take motherfucking gold and mummify the bodies. They did so much 3D physical shit that I can see why the other team pushes people that look like me, that's in the Western world and in the States, that say, hey, yeah, Egypt, you're from Egypt, Egypt, and then you start learning about Egypt, and it's just like, oh, Egypt, they were extremely 3D embedded. Yes, they may have been spiritually beings and they knew, but they was also trying to take everything with them. Any spiritual being knows that these items do not go with you. That's how I feel about when I see motherfuckers talking about, oh, I left bread and all these things out, like some of the associates that I knew that was tarot readers, you know? It's like, why are you feeding the spiritual world physical 3D food when their nourishments is spiritual? That doesn't make any sense to me. In my world, it's like, I don't want to leave a bunch of food out with incense and all of this shit for the spiritual realm, when this isn't how they absorb this shit. They use this shit, but this isn't how they absorb it. In my world, I would use the birds, the squirrels, the chipmunks, the life forms that's out here now. That's what makes sense to me. And I'm able to tell as well by people inner space with that projection as well. You know, it's like, you have to understand that we had a spiritual world, right? And the only way to shift anything differently for your kids is by doing something different. If you don't do anything different, then the things is going to stay the same, and it's not going to get any better. It's not going to go the way you would like it to flow, you know? So that's why I feel like it's always so important to pay attention to what's going on. I was trying to see what the fuck that was, sorry. Why it's so important to pay attention to how people spiritually feel and what's actually going on within them, you know? And even if you don't know what's going on within them, like, just at least know what team somebody's on, so you know how much energy you're giving to them, and then what you're actually gonna get back in return or get reciprocated. And it actually just helps you manage your energy easier and better. You know what I'm saying? It's a pretty deep subject. It can get pretty tricky sometimes, and that's only if you look at it from all these million weird perspective ways that they have out here. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't want to run up too long. You already know the flow, what we follow, the natural flow. You know what I'm saying? All that witchy shit, we tolerate it, but that's not where the flow is at. You know what I'm saying? Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.